Good to see you.
Yes. I'm gonna leave my phone in case she does.
I'm ready. Are you ready? Yep. All right. Let's call the meeting to order. Thank you very much, everybody who's here, especially the guests that come tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing some things from you. AJ, can we do our roll call, please?
Chair Edelhans,
Present.
Member Strong,
Present.
Member Chisholm, absent. Member Mitchell,
Present.
Member Hughes,
Present.
Member Hart,
Yes.
Member Summerson.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. I believe we have some swearing in to do.
We do have 2 reappointments and 1 new member. So if I could get Member Summerson, new member Mitchell, and Member Strong to stand and raise your right hand. If you could repeat after me, I state your name.
I, Sanjay Strong,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Englewood,
of the City of Englewood,
and that I will,
and I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties
faithfully perform the duties
of the office as a member of
of the office as a member of
the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee
Code Enforcement Advisory Committee
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
Congratulations. Welcome. And at the end, I just need to get your official signatures on these. You do also have copies. So welcome.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the new member and new members and existing members. Thank you very much for joining us. We are 7 strong, which is good. And we are still, we will have, I guess, an alternate later. I think that the council will bring an alternate in after the first of the year. Is that right? All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes from last month, which would have been June 18th. Those were given to you in your packet, so if there's anything anybody has any questions about or any corrections to those. Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please? Motion's Sonia, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. All in favor of approving the minutes from last month, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, they pass, thank you. Okay, it's time for the public forum. I'm going to read the instructions from the public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee. There is an expectation that the presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner. Committee members may ask questions for clarification, but there will not be any dialogue. Please limit your presentation to 3 minutes. Please send any written ones have been submitted. I'm going to start this with a written submission of a comment. This is from Julie DePercio, I believe is her name. She is saying, hi there, I am writing in support of Dana Liebert's presentation at tonight's SEAC meeting. Dana is proposing a revision to the current weed ordinance that will support Englewood residents' right to have native pollinator-friendly yards. I support Dana's amendments to the ordinance for multiple reasons. 1, we are in the middle of a serious and detrimental decline of insects, the foundations of the food chain and web of life. Allowing Englewood residents to grow and keep native plants and pollinator-friendly plants growing in their yards supports insects like bees, butterflies, and other native insects that we need for our food and health of ecosystems. Updating the ordinance will support critical science-based land management best practices. Second, native plants are beautiful. I value yards that are bursting with color, flowers, texture, and life. Walking to neighborhoods with yards full of flowers and native plants and insects is one of the best ways I support my mental health. If yards are forced to cut back plants, such as to conform with code, in my opinion, it disrupts my ability to enjoy my neighborhood and walks because there are less to see and observe. Number 3, water usage for native plants allows Inglewood to use less water. Turf grass lawns need a lot of water to stay green, but native plants are adjusted to this climate. It is a water-smart decision to amend this code. Thank you, and I hope the code is updated to align with science, sustainability, and the shifting appreciation for yards bursting with flowers and life. Okay. And we have a number of people who have signed up to speak. Is there anyone who just walked in that wants to speak?
I'm just here to support.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, the first person up is Tracy Savina. Hi, Tracy.
Hi. Do I need to stand?
I think it's probably easiest if you just stand.
Stand?
So
Or
that
they
we
can come sit.
Wow.
Oh, okay, or you
Feels so
can come
official.
sit. How's
Sit
that?
over in a chair over there.
Okay.
All right, that's good too.
This is very informal, but I'm definitely here to support Dana Labor's presentation as well. There's probably not much more to say because that just spoke exactly what I'm feeling. I am definitely one of those that has transitioned from a Kentucky bluegrass front yard. 2023 is when I utilized the City of Inglewood's turf replacement program and took a deep dive into native pollinator plants. And obviously I drank the juice and it's been very healthy. And my yard right now is thriving. It took a while. And that's when I started educating myself about native plant pollinator gardens, I mean, there's a lot out there that says it's not always going to be, beautiful, but you just have to kind of go with the seasons. And then what you get out of it is amazing. And just seeing the colors bursting throughout the different seasons from spring to fall. I am seeing that this year because I'm in the 3rd season now. And are things growing very high? So in terms of the ordinance and a reason to rewrite that, it's definitely clear that we need some kind of direction for people that are wanting to do this. And I think it's growing. I'm on the Sustainability Commission and I also have my own business now, helping people turn their yards into regenerative landscaping that is more sustainable and earth-friendly and pollinator-friendly, bird-friendly, all of the above, and people-friendly, because it makes my neighbors smile. I have not heard one complaint. It's all been positive. So that is what I have to say about Dana Lieber's presentation that's coming up. And thank you for letting me be here and to speak.
Any questions for Tracy?
I do if nobody else does.
Okay.
Have you ever gotten a notice of violation because your yard plants are too
No.
high?
I haven't,
Okay.
thankfully, just in my alley.
Do you have pollinators in your alley?
I do have some along with other opportunistic plants.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy, I have one
Hi.
more question.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
What are the plants that you plant?
What are the plants?
Yeah.
Oh, a whole variety. Whew. Bee balm, penstemon, blue grama, echinacea. Flax, thank you.
Menorah.
Yes, just starts, yes, I have a lot in there. Like you come by my yard and there's a plethora of different plants that are just blooming throughout the seasons.
Where is your yard?
Where is it? 3274 South Pennsylvania Street.
I'm sorry, 32.
74 South Pennsylvania Street.
Thank you.
And now I have my neighbor who is also transforming her yard. And so we have like little paths that people can walk through. And so encouraging the neighbors to walk through and just see what they can do with their yards too. So I encourage anybody to stop by and see what I have going on.
Tracy, since you began this process, when did the yard stop looking like a potential weed area because the plants were not thriving and became something which looked more intentional? Can you give us an idea?
That's a good question. Obviously, from my perspective, it always looked beautiful. But in terms of like really seeing the growth, this year is definitely the year that I've seen the growth. Last year it was, I don't know if you've heard the phrase sleep, creep, leap. Because in the first year that you plant, the energy is going into the roots to establish those long roots. And then in the next year, it's kind of creeping up. And then now, for me, in my third year, that's when you're seeing the flourishing happening above, because now it's going into what's above the ground, because the roots are now established.
Do you have any concerns about it being misrepresented as a yard with weeds in it?
No. I welcome any conversation with neighbors that would like to point out anything. So I like to have that dialogue because I think education is important. So.
Any other questions for Tracy? Thank you very much, Tracy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Kathy Woody.
That's me. Yeah. I'm just gonna stand if that's okay. And I may be telling you something you already know, and if that's the case, I apologize. But there is a department in the city government that partners with an agency called Resource Central. Are you guys familiar with Resource Central? Okay, so as an Inglewood citizen, you can apply. You send in an application to Resource Central. They remove sod and they provide a garden in a box, which is all Colorado natives. So I applied 2 summers ago. They came out and removed the sod. And then I applied again this summer and they gave me 58 Colorado native pollinating plants. And Tracy could probably tell you the names of them. I don't know. They sent me a whole little thing about where to plant them and how to plant them and all that kind of stuff. If on one hand, the city is saying, do this, get rid of your turf and put in Colorado natives. And on the other hand, code enforcement is saying you can't have that. There's a disconnect in my mind. And, you know, maybe the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, but for citizens, it's very confusing. And one other thing, the seeds from these plants can be carried on the wind. So, I mean, I have plants growing where I never put it because maybe a squirrel moved it or a bird or the wind or whatever. So like Tracy said, she's got bee balm, I have bee balm. Well, my bee balm plant is this high and it does exactly what it sounds like. It attracts the bees. And you may know that bees are in danger right now. We want to do everything we can to encourage bees. Well, I think this height is against code. So I think, Dana, I hate to speak for her, but I think she's going to introduce some noxious weeds. And it just seems to me that code enforcement should get rid of the noxious weeds that are strangling out the roots of the good plants. Get rid of those. Those should be gone. And leave the ones that are encouraging the bees and the butterflies and the pollinators. And the ones that at least one department in this city is encouraging us to plant, leave those alone. I think that's all I have.
Any questions for Kathy?
I have the same question. Have you ever gotten a notice of violation from code because of your plants?
I have not. but I do know someone who has.
And she's on her way.
And she's on her way.
Okay, perfect.
She had a late meeting.
She got a citation.
You haven't installed,
I haven't,
installed the plants.
oh yeah, I did, all 58 of them, me. I did.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I
Yes,
think
Chris.
the word that you used, intentional planting, is really key to this.
Can I, before you go any further, Edie, let's keep to just the
Yeah.
public part, and we definitely, it's gonna be coming up here that we talk about it.
Well,
Thank you.
although I kind of picked up on what you said, it's not always intentional, like I said, the wind also carries seeds. But they're seeds of good plants.
Thank you. Vicki?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of take a little bit different take. Do you want me to stand up?
Yes.
Can everybody see her okay?
Okay. I'm kind of one of those, I'm transitioning. So I have a mixture of, perennials and pollinators and transitioning more into the native garden because of my passion of being sustainable and friendly. So I'm kind of in the transition of that. I learned a lot from Dana. I had a neighborhood tea party in my backyard in May, and Dana was our guest speaker. And I have to tell you, there is a real interest in understanding and learning more about it. I also work for HD3 and the Arapahoe Dems. I'm on the board. And I would have to say in the last year and a half that I've been involved with them, that this is one of the hot topics and people are wanting to see it. There's Ken. And to see more of that, and they're very interested. So I think on a community perspective, we need to be educated because there's a hunger out there in the community. And how did I fund it? Oh, I funded it through the program here, through Madeline, the Community Neighbor Program. Yeah, and we had neighbors that all had come, to that, and we had fun and we talked and we, had lots of interest looking at people's flowers and things like that. So on a community perspective, there's an interest there, and they want to know more. So I think there needs to be an education around that, and I also think it's a way of connecting neighbors, because I saw that firsthand, in the HD3 group as well as, in the Inglewood Neighborhood Program that I was in. So I think that's all I need to say.
Do we have any questions for Vicki? Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I would. Actually, it's a standing question, so if you would just tell me if you've gotten a notice of violation from code.
No, I have not, and that's because I'm in my alley, and that's because I hate weeds. And one of my pet peeves all these years is weeds in alleys and people not taking care of their weeds. I've even sprayed other people's weeds to keep them from coming. So in my remodel, I actually have a sidewalk. I have a sidewalk with places for trash cans and my composting and things like that, so that I can keep the weeds out of my alley. So no, I have not.
Okay.
I did grow some sunflowers out of my driveway when I drive in, thinking, oh, that would be so beautiful. And they got so big, they started coming down, and my car kept stopping because it was violating it. So that's my experience on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Oh, one other thing. I had a neighbor who lives one block over, Bob Rickmont, and he was going to make it here tonight. He had company, and he wanted me to speak on bees, saying that, we need to do this in order to you know, for our economy and the peace. You know, so, there we go.
Anybody else? No questions? Okay, let's move on, and I apologize, my handwriting looks like this. I don't know, I can't read the next one. Who signed up next?
I know that the person who has had a violation in her alley is on her
Snyder.
way. She had a meeting,
Okay.
and I told her to continue coming.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading the name.
I used to work for doctors,
so
I
can read it.
Who else signed up? I thought I was.
The third one?
one?
Who signed up next?
Which,
I used
which
to-
Did you
After
sign
Yeah,
up?
I signed up, but I
Maybe
think I
it's
was.
Marcy.
Marcy signed up.
Marcy?
Marcy
Let's
Brady.
see here.
I think I was before Vicky.
I've got you're the last one, Marcy, isn't there? A person before you, who signed up?
Keely, yeah,
Yes,
you signed up.
Messaging.
right
I'm
by me.
sorry,
Yeah.
I just couldn't read.
Handwriting was
He needs glasses.
No judgment.
I'm sorry.
So I was on the Keep Inglewood Beautiful, which is now Sustainability Commission, for 2 terms. And during that time, I promoted classes for composting and for water-wise landscaping and gardening, which was presented by someone from the Denver Botanical Gardens. I was very inspired and even before that, I had converted my backyard into totally drought-resistant plants, and I took out the sprinklers, and everything in there can survive without any extra water. I mean, sometimes when it's really hot, I'll get the hose out. I've probably done that twice this summer, and everything's alive. And I didn't use all natives, but I'm slowly converting to that because I see the value in natives because they belong here. They help sustain our soil because they have the deep roots. They help sustain our native insects, which we need our native bees and pollinators. And I have bees. I love to shoot little videos of the bees and the moths and the butterflies flying around my backyard. So, and that's something I helped our community get involved with through classes, through Keep Inglewood Beautiful. I have also signed up with Resource Central and had my sod removed, and I've replaced the turf, and I haven't been able to afford the plant yet, but I can't get it. I'll have to talk to you. But I do have some natives that in my, I don't want to say, the strip between the sidewalk and the street, I have converted that with cardboard and then wood mulch, and I planted native yarrow there and some other native plants, which I think looks so much better than the rocks with all the weeds growing through them. I have a very shaded area, and these plants actually grow, and I'm worried because my yarrow is tall, and it has self-seeded a bit. But it looks nice, and I don't want to remove it. So I planted 2, and I think I have 4 now, and I'm very happy because I'd like more plants up there. And I have been cited by code enforcement. I didn't have any tall grass or anything. I just had 1 plant in my alley. And I called and said, am I not allowed that? It was blooming. And there was no tall grass. So I try to be vigilant with that.
That is 3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
That is 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? I have one.
Sure.
You mentioned that you planted by your sidewalk. Have those plants ever overgrown or been an issue with regard to passage on your sidewalk? They don't spread in a way that might be an issue?
Not at all. No.
All right.
I do have a question. So were you allowed to keep the native plant in the alley or was it in the
You
alleyway?
know, it was kind of vague. It's still there because it comes up every year.
Well, they would have been back in 10 days.
Well, I called code and said,
Okay.
do I have to take this out?
Mhm.
And they said, well, if it's a plant, no, but, so, I don't know. I
Okay.
didn't, but I've not had another citation because I think it looks cared for.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What kind of plant was it?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
So do you know that it's a native plant or that it's not a native plant?
I don't know if it's a native plant or not.
Okay.
I did not
So
plant it.
you don't know how would code enforcement know whether it's a native plant or
Well-
whether it's considered a weed?
I do think that code enforcement should be aware of, I mean, when you have a really pretty flowering plant in the midst of a mowed area, I don't know, code enforcement put plant ID on their phones?
Okay.
Not that hard.
Okay, if you're going for native plants, then you would have, if you don't know what it is, you have no way of knowing it. If it's an invasive plant that's come in from another place that we don't want in the state. So I would think if you're promoting native plants, you would want to know what kind of plant that was.
I didn't plant it, it was there and I've left it and it's
Okay,
never
thank you.
spread.
Thank you.
It's stayed the same for years, the one plant.
Any other questions?
Can we find your bee videos anywhere?
My what?
Your bee videos?
My bee videos? Oh. I could share them, yes. I get a little obsessive. 'Cause I like the sound too.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
You said that there was a resource that they could put on their phones. What was that?
There's plenty, but there's Plant ID, there's Google,
Plant ID.
yes, and there's Google ID, Plant ID, there's several.
Oh, you can just take a picture using your phone. You don't need any kind of app.
Right.
And just hit the little
Shows like a little
eye or
identifier.
something and it'll pop right up and tell you what it is.
Okay.
I have an Android, I'm sure
Yes, so
iPhones do the same.
Yeah.
They have an they're on all the new ones.
Okay, there's Blossom, there's Picture This.
Any other questions?
Kind of fun going around, saying, oh, what's this plant?
Okay. Moving on. Marcy.
Okay,
Did you want to speak?
I'm at 3375 South Corona. And 3 years ago, we re-landscaped our backyard and our front yard. Just put out, I did not know that Englewood would do that for us, but so we spent a bundle. But I am speaking in favor of, I do believe that weeds, identifiable weeds and noxious plants should be dealt with. I have a neighbor who has very poor lawn maintenance, and I don't know if he's been cited. I have not called him in. But they are even now trying to do better. And I know our alley has I thought the entire alley was getting mowed, but maybe it's just parts of it. But there are people in the neighborhood who absolutely do have weeds and they should be cited for that. I think it's demoralizing to, when you have so many people who are doing such hard work to maintain nice looking places and you're not taking care of your own and it gets out of hand. A gentle reminder from the city is totally in order. I also used to volunteer with Friends of Mount Evans and Lost Creek Wilderness, and I was on the task force to pull noxious weeds. So they look pretty, but they are an invasive species. There are many, and they're not good to have. The house when we moved in there 21 years ago actually had spurge growing along the driveway. Again, looks pretty, doesn't grow high, but it looks pretty, but I looked it up and it was not a good thing. So I've put on rubber gloves and pulled it out, all out. We replaced it with beautiful honeysuckle and stuff. So I am just in support of Dan. There is absolutely a reason to keep weeds out of the way. But to help reinforce the neighborhoods to plant nicer plants. I too get a lot more bees, I get more butterflies, I get more birds. And using less water and inspiring neighbor. I get compliments all the time. Our neighbor across the street almost duplicated our yard. People ask if my other neighbor and I are actually in cahoots. So it does. It just benefits the neighborhoods, makes them look nice. And I think every citizen has a responsibility to keep their property looking good. And if they're not, then please issue citations.
Thank you.
And no, I have not ever received a citation.
Oh, good transfer. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Ken, you came in late. Did you want to speak?
No, that's fine.
Just here to.
Just listening.
Thank you.
And that first person was so eloquent, what you bring.
Yes, yes.
That just
Thank you.
kind of summed it up for everybody.
All right. So I believe that is the end of public comment. Thanks to all who came. We are going to have a lively discussion tonight over this, so hope you stay to enjoy that. If not, you can pick it up online later. So. Okay, let's move on. June code statistics. AJ, you got that?
Yep, those were attached to your packets and in front of you as requested the last meeting. So you have a copy of those to reference. Those were also included in January in the year numbers, so those weren't included in the packet because they were already provided in the February minutes.
Okay. I just would ask everybody on the committee if you would please to retain this through the end of the year, so we only have to have one copy, so just have it ready when you're doing the next one.
And then the January, the end of the year for 2025 will be your copy for next year.
All right. Anybody have any questions regarding the statistics? Anything to hand out to you? We don't need to go line by line through this.
I do have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just in high level, first meeting here, are these citations attached to addresses and then are those kind of kept, like there are some, the city has for example, like a software where crime is reported and updated through the police department. Is there something similar to this?
So all of our cases for code enforcement are kept in the record management system for the police department. It's all the same system that all the police reports are kept in.
I was just curious if there are patterns that arrive out of all this different data. Similar, like hotspots or areas in the city that, from a geographic standpoint.
Yeah, and all like hotspot maps and all that can all be produced from the system.
Anything in the system.
If needed. It just depends on what statistics or what line you're looking at. If you want to do like dangerous dogs, or if we want to do weeds, like right now we're all across the city, or similar to police, if they're doing accidents, the hotspot maps can be pulled from the same system, just depending on what statistic line we're looking at. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
AJ, I had one question. Just first page there under how they were received, citizen is 171, and I'm seeing that kind of trending upward. What are you seeing more people using Anglefix, things like that to contact you, or, I mean, I'm just kind of curious, are they calling in, or how are they doing that?
So this time of year, especially with us still being down staff, We are getting a lot more citizen complaints in,
Okay.
and that's phone calls, that's legal fix. And we are able to be more proactive right now because we are down staff. And so that's where those numbers are going up because our other numbers are going down either through dispatch or through officer initiated.
A follow-up to that, can we see the angle fix number versus the column number, like where what except for the 171? Angle fix is in that 171, but I'm trying to understand or follow a pattern or an increase in the use of angle fix versus calling. I'd be curious to know like what the actual angle fix call-in is versus just labeling it all citizen.
We don't have that breakout. I don't know if we can pull just the numbers of what's coming in through AngleFix.
Okay.
Specifically because AngleFix is broken out into subcategories. If you've submitted something through AngleFix, you know there's multiple different categories. Not everything's submitted properly. So it may have been rerouted. So those
Something
numbers.
might come into AngleFix but get sent outside of it to the appropriate department to
Correct.
address.
Yeah, or it may have been submitted as, say, like a alley grading complaint, but it was really a grass and weed complaint that we saw and went ahead and took off from that. So how it's reported may not be completely accurate. So yeah, that's something we can look into, but not sure how those numbers are gonna match up.
There'd be some caveats.
Yeah, with how close the numbers are. I'm not sure if that's gonna make a huge difference, but we can look into that.
Grass and weeds went up from 102 last June to 260 this year. Wow. And you've got your part-timers out there, or you're doing some of that? I mean, you still got that, right?
Our two seasonals came on as of July 1st.
As of July 1st, so this is prior to that.
Correct.
And I'm assuming probably citizen initiated? You don't have anybody else going out there and looking at for them during June, did you?
There's the 4 of us.
Oh, okay. That's quite a jump.
Different weather.
Yes,
I was gonna say, because 2 years ago, we had the same thing.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago, we had a very wet spring
Right.
early, and so everything grew. Last year, it was a very dry year, and then got wet towards the end of June. So it is very weather dependent as well.
Anything else? Anybody else? We got a long meeting, so I want to make sure we get it. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, go ahead with your staffing updates.
Yeah, we already talked about this, but our two seasonal officers started July 1st. They are out on their own and moving through the city for grassweed and right-of-way violations. We did interviews today and tomorrow for our vacant code position. And then we are happy to say that our park ranger will be moving into police academy starting in August. So we will be having a vacant park ranger position as well here in the next couple of weeks. So we will be down 2 full-time staff. Hopefully we'll be replacing that fairly soon with 1 and then have another position filled here in the future.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, any other questions for AJ before we move forward? All right.
I would just add, I met Patrick today. He was at the neighbor's rental property that's there doing his job. So I was very impressed with a brief conversation that I had with him today, and he was getting after it. So.
Great to hear, thank you.
He's a sharp kid, I've met him too. Rita, what's new on council?
Probably not a whole lot. Last night, Monday night, it did come up at the end, but there hasn't been a decision on this. The mayor asked if the code enforcement committee would look at some nuisance thing, and I don't really even remember what it was right now. Oh, I know what it was, trees, nuisance trees in the alley, but I suggested that we get council consensus on that before the committee goes into it. So,
Okay.
anyway.
Was
I'm
that brought
assu-
up as a result of citizen concern or
I,
what?
I think it was brought up as a result of citizen concerns. Somebody had, I don't know, I think there were trees in the alley or something, volunteer trees. And I think they were told that code can't do anything about it. But I think we need more information before we decide to go ahead and talk about this. Did you listen to the meeting at all, AJ? Was that what it was about? Something with trees, right, in the,
Yeah, it was trees grown in the alley, and I believe it was from a citizen complaint originally that hit the mayor,
right,
and so, yeah.
right. So I think it was just decided we need to get consensus from council, and so we didn't talk about it.
Okay.
But that could be coming forward. And I think they're about volunteer trees really that come up.
I've got plenty of volunteer trees that I wish I didn't have.
Are they in the alley or in your yard?
No, I don't have an alley, so.
Oh, listen, there were a boatload of elm trees. We've been,
Oh,
Pulling elm
it's
trees
the
up.
elms that have been going nuts. Yeah. Kind of an invasive tree, I think, isn't
I
it?
think so.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see, communication subcommittee. I'm gonna turn this over. Edie, are you okay with Rick talking about,
Right, I didn't attend because
Okay.
of my illness. So.
Rick, you wanna kind of tell how the neighborhood night
The
thing is
neighborhood
going on?
night, got it. Yes, I have been to, went to the last couple. So it's been interesting. I think one of the things that we had wanted to do was have something too specific to share or to say. And so again, in lieu of being prepared in that way, we didn't have the same presentation as other people did. So I do think that we may consider having that conversation around the small stipend that we received to possibly get a tablecloth, maybe print out that picture of the AnkleFix QR code and URL, just to be able to support and engage in dialogue, which I think would be really important. I think it was we were able to connect with folks, but I think it was a missed opportunity. I know I spent 20 or 30 minutes learning all about our water here, and it was great to look at the pictures and see the reservoirs and the mountains we own and all of those things that we just, it just falls a little flat when you don't have something to point to or to engage on. So we had the flyers, which was helpful, but it doesn't draw people in. So I don't know about a strategy that specifically talks about neighborhood nights, because that's of course seasonal, but I do think it begs the question of where else can we be all year long and how can we engage the community. It was great to see as many people show up tonight on the topic. And so next week when we talk about, cars that don't, idle cars that don't move or whatever, it'd be great if the people had some concerns to be able to come and talk to us about that while we were discussing that section of the code. Very similar to shoveling, very similar to grass and weeds. I would love to see it for all of them. And I think the way we can do that is by thinking about neighborhood nights, other city opportunities, but we do have to have something, and we have to, that aids our presence other than just being there. And I think the focus on CAC versus even code enforcement, because it's not our role to do code enforcement, right? Our role is to provide advice and counsel to the council on code. And I think that's a friendly posture to have with everyone in the neighborhood, and really trying to, again, make people feel comfortable and welcome to share their views and opinions with the community.
So can I ask a question? Because I saw you at the last one, and you guys did a great job. So did very many people come up to you? Because there was nothing that even identified, I mean, if we had a sign that said Code Enforcement Advisory Committee or something like that, do you think that would have been more helpful?
I think having something, again, I probably would lean toward the acronym and engage in a dialogue and explain what that is. But yes, I do think when you are two people who happen to be at a tent with a small bowl of candy and a flyer, and everyone else around you has these cutouts of these things.
Right at the last minute, because I said, we gotta get the kids over here. Get the kids, you get the parents.
And we knew that. I think we should plan for that, and that does take some effort and or budget and or understanding of how to make that happen so that we are within city protocols around communications, et cetera. So
So does code enforcement have a tent like all the other city departments? Does the police has a tent, correct? I think that code enforcement should get one too.
We didn't probably need a tent.
Okay. And then we just would need a sign that says CEAC. So I was just trying to help you. So they have a budget.
Well, and the reason I put this, asked that we put this on the agenda is because, Rick and I have kind of done this a couple times, and I agree with Rick. It's you're kind of swimming uphill trying to explain to people why you're there. I tell people that I'm the only non-employed city person in any of these booths down the way here. I'm a citizen. And so that kind of engages the conversation. This piece has actually been really good, and I'd like to have a discussion about how we can move some of the bullet points onto something else, which could be maybe passed out or something, because it's the draw. You basically say, here, we've got this quick and slick 8-point thing Edie and I worked on, and here, if you can go by all these, you will not be bothered by code enforcement. It's kind of that kind of thing. But at the same time, Rick's right, we just didn't have a presence there. And I think that we have talked about, and I would love to get your opinion as a committee on whether we institute and get moving forward on a table covering of some kind, the sign idea, having a table tent of some kind where we at least advertise it, put the, what is Englefix? See something, say something kind of thing. And then you put that QR there so people can download that app. At least you've got something there that people are interested in talking about. So I would entertain a motion that we approve expenditure of some funds to get both the table covering as well as some sort of, whatever we can stretch that $250 to cover, to get a tabletop kind of presentation piece or something like that. And if that's something you want to do, I would ask maybe the communications move forward on kind of the development part of that. Does anybody want a motion?
Well, I would like to add into that, Rick, the need to have a Chotsky or something, a refrigerator magnet on Englefix, something that we could pass out and that would always be there for the citizens, because this whole concept of SEAC is that we empower citizens to tell us what they want. And if they see something, do something, as you said. So I'd like something with Englefix, even though it's not under our purview. Englefix, I don't know who's it under, planning or communications, all right, that we get something that we can give out to people.
I'm happy to put together some proposed ideas of what some of those might be or what they might look like, and then AJ, I don't know the rules, but I'm happy to connect with communication. Like whatever the right step is to identify where there are assets to use, where there are assets not to use, whether they need to take lead because it's an Englewood product, just some of those things that I'm happy to be in conversation with a communications person about.
Yeah, and whatever you guys would put together, if you want to put like a table plot together, if you want to put together some Chotskys or whatever else, if you need a QR code, basically you would put together a packet of whatever you want to purchase, the designs, anything else with CEAC on it. You'd supply that to me, I'll forward it over. As long as it fits with the branding, they would change it if needed, let you know what needs to be changed, and then they would approve it. And then at that point, once it's approved, then you can move forward with the purchasing of it.
Since this is a communications-based idea, the Englefix, and it touches so many different departments, I personally would like to see if they could if communications be encouraged to spend their money on this. And that we would be the sort of poster at these nights to talk about it. We're happy to do that, but I don't, I want to make sure that the money we have goes as far as we can get it. And we've talked about the magnets for a number of months now. And I think that would be a great idea to have those Inglefix magnets out there for people to have, that kind of thing. So do we want to leave it at that at this point? And Rick, do you want to do some research, or what do you think? Do you want to, we can make a motion and make
Let's
sure that
make a
it's
motion.
official here, okay?
I make a motion
Okay, what do you make a motion of?
that we take Rick's suggestion about putting together the ideas that we would like to have to be able to stand out in various presentations and meetings where CEAC could be involved with citizens. And that he, if you're okay, do the mock-ups and stuff like that.
Proceed
and
with the sort of investigation of
an
what,
investigation, or really what AJ said, all we have to do is put it together, give it to AJ, and he'll forward it to make sure that it's within the guidelines of the graphics for the city.
well, and I would take one more step, and we've been in a meeting with communications before, is that it's okay to get together with communications to do this. You don't
Yeah.
have to kind of do the long chain of things. If you want to reach out to Madeline or to Chris or somebody over there and see if maybe, you get your ideas together, you guys sit down or
Yeah,
something.
we could do it
And
together.
just maybe come back to us with ideas, what they'd be willing to carry on and that kind of thing. How much time would you want to have to do that? You want to report back next meeting? You want to?
Next meeting. What do you think?
I'm away for a couple weeks, so I don't want
Right.
to, next meeting is a hard.
Okay.
But, by September, I mean, we may have a sketch of something for the next.
Oh,
meeting,
okay.
But September.
Why don't
feels
you
right.
just report back with what you've got, but let's
Yeah,
kind
we'll
of
have
have
a report
something.
out in the next meeting.
I'd like to have something to vote on by September. How's that
Yeah.
sound?
I've got one thought on that. There's so many people are using acronyms. Nobody pays attention to acronyms anymore. If we're gonna do something, I would like to see code enforcement
Right.
on it. So people know why, and it's not just another acronym, another booth, but they'll know what it is and then use the acronym where you need to, but have the name there so people know what it is. Otherwise, they have no clue. And they won't ask a lot of the time.
Code Enforcement Advisory Committee.
Well, and I don't want them to think we are code enforcement. That's a line there, if you bold code enforcement, all of a sudden, we're not who you are, maybe we make sure that it's clear that this is a citizen group here or something like that.
Yeah, and that can
It's
be made,
advisory.
that can be made in the stuff that you have, but that is the Code Enforcement Advisory
Advisory
Committee.
Yeah,
That's the name of the group,
right.
so.
All right, very good, thank you. I would also like a straw poll here. We've got 2 more of these in neighborhood nights. I won't be attending those, and I don't think Rick is either.
Do you have a motion still on the table?
Oh, I'm sorry, we do. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second, Matthew seconds. Any other discussion before we vote? Okay, let's move forward. All those in favor of moving forward on an exploratory of marketing pieces for SEAC, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, now let me jump in. Rick and I did the last couple. We've got, I think, Mike's supposed to do Cushing Park, and then I think Bates Logan is Edie and Sonia. Is that correct? Are you guys still up to doing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all
Unless it
right.
gets rained out.
Me too.
All right, well, we will continue doing what we're doing, and I can tell you later about how to find the paperwork and everything like that, the forms and everything, so we'll talk about that later.
Will Cushing Park be rescheduled from tonight?
I don't think they rescheduled.
Just canceled?
Just cancel. Now we'll move on to the next one.
Okay. Okay, going on. Okay, time for presentation. We have Dana Liebert here to make a presentation regarding the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight, which has to do with grass and weeds, EMC Ordinance 1561. Dana, are you hooked up?
No, I can't
Okay.
get it hooked up. So I tried, I don't know, I'm a plant person, not a computer person. I'm sorry I can't show you a lot of pretty pictures, but I'll just try to be present and talk. And I'm not gonna talk for 30 minutes, so don't worry. So thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of modifying Englewood's weed ordinance. Since moving to Englewood 12 years ago, I've worked to promote ecological landscaping practices throughout the city. And one way that I've done this is by leading by example with my own yard, which I've transformed into a low-water pollinator-friendly habitat. I had a really pretty picture here, but you can't really see it. And my landscape's one example of what you may say is a new landscaping model that's growing more popular amongst Englewood residents. And this is a model that values sustainability, biodiversity, responsible resource use, and believes that we can have beauty while having ecological value. One's not at the expense of the other. And we see the popularity of this more ecological approach reflected in the overwhelming demand for the city's garden in a boxes. The program fills up within hours of going live. So, you know, I've spent 10 years, a lot of energy, a lot of time working on my yard. I get lots of compliments from people. And so I was really surprised when I realized that my yard was in violation of the city's weed ordinance. I did not get a violation, but still I felt that there's a misalignment here. You know, I'm doing something that the city endorses with its pollinator resolution, with the Garden in a Box program. And I feel that we should be able to make this investment knowing that that we're in compliance, you know, that it's a lot of work. So we should know that we're not breaking a rule when we do this. So I thought about it, read the code, and I proposed a modest to meet common sense update to the ordinance to make a distinction between invasive weeds and beneficial plants, and between turf grass and native grasses. This change aligns with Englewood's sustainability goals, and it aligns with the state law requiring cities to manage noxious and invasive species as per the rules pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Colorado Noxious Weed Act, 8 CCR 1206-2. And these updates align with best landscape management practices from CSU Extension regarding turf maintenance. So it would be easier if I could post this, but you know, I'll say I'll read the current ordinance. Every occupant and/or owner of real property shall cut or cause to be cut all weeds or grasses over 6 inches in height located thereon, and shall remove or cause the removal of said weeds or grass to a site authorized for such disposal. So the issues with this wording that I see are that it treats native grasses the same as it treats non-native turf grass lawns. And there's a real difference between them. Native grasses are essential food for our native songbirds who have been declining, you know, in alarming numbers. They provide their host plants to our pollinators, native pollinators, and they provide nesting sites for pollinators. The current ordinance doesn't define weed. And if you ask any gardener what a weed is, it's the plant they don't like. And you look it up in the dictionary, it's also like, there's no strict definition of what's a weed. And it's really subjective, open to interpretation. And yeah, so it seems hard to administer a code or a law that has a vague word. It also, this was less of an issue to me, but technically it requires unnecessary disposal, saying that grass needs to be disposed of. CSU Extension recommends just leaving the grass cuttings as mulch to enrich your turf. And it's at odds with Englewood's Garden in a Box program. So I proposed that we clarify the language, and here is my new wording. Every occupant and/or owner of real property shall cut or cause to be cut all weeds that are on the Colorado invasive and noxious weed list, or non-native turfgrass, over 10 inches in height, located thereon, and shall remove or cause the removal of said weeds to a site authorized for such disposal. So, what are noxious weeds? And I think this, change always feels really daunting, like, oh my God, we've got to learn this whole new thing. There's really about 14 weeds to be familiar with. And there's 3 categories on the list. There's list A, list B, list C plants, and the watch list. But really, by state law, municipalities are required to monitor and what's the wording? I'm sort of going off script, but they're required to regulate these weeds and limit their spread on both residential and municipal property. And as one of our guests tonight said, the noxious weeds are a real nuisance. They're really, she said, they're demoralizing. When I walk my dog around Englewood, I feel like I need to put blinders on. Like, I get really upset. I see these overgrown, these properties overgrown with noxious weeds, and those weeds are gonna blow onto my property. My neighbors who I love, I end up weeding their lawn on both sides because I don't want those weeds. So I think that, one side of this issue is supporting the people in Englewood who make a real investment in creating sustainable habitat landscapes. And the other side is having a way that code enforcers can identify the weeds, So I understand that this existing ordinance was likely written at a time when conventional turf lawns were the norm. But today, more residents understand that what we plant and how we maintain our landscapes directly affects our local environment. It affects our air, it affects our water, and people want their yards to be part of the solution. And I think that is community-based problem solving at its best. It's people taking action where a larger political system hasn't solved the problems. And these landscapes are an asset to our city. And yeah, it may be rare that they get violations, but it just, to me, like, it should be in alignment. And we should be clear on what is being regulated here. And Amy, who showed up, she's the one who got a code violation for her landscape. So I want to address a few concerns about these revisions. I am absolutely not suggesting that sustainable or landscapes, eco-landscapes, whatever you want to call them, should be exempt from having to maintain the landscapes. You know, we all have to be good neighbors, good citizens, and you know, I personally feel like the only way we're going to get wider adoption of ecological landscaping is if it looks nice. So, you know, we want to make it attractive. Number two, I'm not suggesting that every yard with a noxious weed should get a code violation. I'm not trying to make more work. There's really no such thing as a weed-free landscape. It's the unicorn of landscaping. And I would doubt there's any property in Englewood without some bindweed. And, you know, but I do think the Code Commission can do a better job of addressing the really unmaintained properties that are overgrown with weeds and are a nuisance to those of us who do maintain our property, and they're a nuisance to the Parks Department. And the increase of, you know, their spread leads to more pesticide use, more harmful pesticides being used. And so what I am suggesting is that code enforcement help reduce noxious weeds in Englewood, fulfill municipal responsibilities according to the Colorado Noxious Weed Act by identifying yards that are overgrown with weeds. And I understand that there's this question and concern, how will code enforcement officers, who are often seasonal hires, how are they going to be able to identify noxious weeds? So at my slideshow, I have a list of these 14 top weeds, some of that are on the A and B list. And I have examples from CSU's noxious weed identification guide, where there are pictures of each of these weeds in different stages. And I will offer to make this cheat sheet for SEAC, for code enforcement. I have a landscape business, so, you know, it would be useful to me also to have one of these cheat sheets with pictures. And I think to make it even simpler for code enforcement, you're not looking for all 14 all season. It could be a spring, summer, fall, you know, chart that shows these weeds at the stage of growth that they're at that time of year. And keep in mind, it's usually really pretty easy to identify when there's a landscape overrun with plants on the list, and there's usually multiple of these noxious weeds. So finally, I want to cite an example of an update to municipal code on weeds from the city of Castle Rock. They updated their code in 2021, and it has a section with definitions where they define native plant and they define noxious weed, and they very specifically exempt native plants and grasses from the weed ordinance. But they do say people who have the native landscapes still are required to maintain the landscapes free of noxious weeds. So I have all the wording if anyone wants to see it. And when Rick was saying, what can we give out at these community things? I would love, like, this may be beyond this commission's scope, but I would really love for the city to have more educational resources about what are noxious weeds and how you deal with them. Because really, when I walk around, I just think if they just had a weed whacker and cut them down so those seed heads don't blow all over, that's all I'm asking for. It's not like you gotta be out there manually weeding them all. And also, like, get that kochia when it's this big before it's this big with a few 100,000 seeds. So in closing, my understanding is that municipal weed ordinances exist for two purposes. to maintain a standard of maintenance for aesthetic purposes, and 2, to limit the spread of noxious weeds. The small but I believe meaningful change I'm proposing would serve both purposes while also evolving with current environmental knowledge, state requirements, and community values. Thank you for this chance to speak. I'm really grateful that you all are open to revisiting this issue. Updating the weed ordinance is a step that supports ecological stewardship, honors community investment, and positions Englewood as a leader in sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Dana?
I would like to have a copy of your presentation.
Yeah,
You
I'll
could-
gladly.
Thank you.
Did you email that to
Yeah.
AJ? AJ can send it out.
Yeah,
to
we
us.
have to figure out.
And once she's able to email it to me, I will attach it to the minutes.
I
Okay.
appreciate that, okay.
Thank you.
We really want to see it.
And I can also send a link to CSU's sheet. And this is how other counties or other cities monitor. They have these cheat sheets.
That'd be great.
Sure, happy to help.
And let's keep just the questions now to Dana for clarification on the presentation, questions you might have about aspects of it. We will hold our discussion separate from this, so we're not in discussion mode yet. Okay. Any other questions for Dana? And I have one. And I would love to have all of your yards. Trust me, I mean, it would be a wonderful thing and a beautiful thing. I have a concern, and I think the concern is that I have a beautiful native yard. Okay, I'm doing a great job and everything. But I also have invasive weeds. Or I had a beautiful native yard and I fell ill and I can't maintain that beautiful native yard and it's now overrun by weeds. That's probably a more likely thing to have happen. What do you view code enforcement's role regarding the overgrown noxious weeds in a natural yard?
So, I have several thoughts about that, but just to answer the last part of that. And I had some pictures that show kind of what I'm thinking of, where there should be a violation. And it's really where you've got this swath of cheatgrass or, it's very evident. I don't think, I'd get a violation for the thistle in my backyard that I'm trying to get under control, So I think, I'm not answering that so clearly, but really I think it's when it's very clearly unmaintained and it's overrun. And, maybe we have some way to help people who, fall ill and aren't able to keep up with it. I've had the thought that it's a great summer job, like youth summer job, to have a weed whacker and be able to go, spend an hour cutting those weeds down before they go to seed. But in terms of weed management, your best mulch is lots of plants and,
And all
and a
I'm doing
dense
is
landscape.
trying to clarify, because I'm trying to envision this from the position of maintaining what the code enforcement team, whether they are seasonal hires or anybody else is, in my mind, looking at a yard that has these beautiful flowering things and there's bees and everything else going on, and in between that are a noxious weed or a patch of noxious weeds. Do they cite or do they not cite? It's an intentional installation, but it's overgrown now. I just, there's a gray area there that's a little confusing to me, and I just want to make sure that, you know, we're addressing that issue too. Matthew, did you have a question?
I was just gonna use the word discretion.
Yeah.
What it
I
comes down
think,
to.
yeah, it's the same discretion as when you see a lawn with some thistle or bindweed. You know, I think that's not where they focus. They focus on the really egregious, you know, spread of weeds. And I think largely the people who, you know, are landscaping for pollinators and ecological restoration, they're putting a lot of time into their yards. They're doing their best to stay on top of the weeds. I'm out, you know, I pull a few weeds every couple days. I'm out there. So, you know, I think it's like anyone who's put a lot into their landscape, they care.
You mentioned your neighbor's yard and his lawn. What kind of weeds does he have in his lawn that you object to?
Oh, well, I pull the, I gotta think of all the names. There is bindweed, there's, I think spurge. I'm not like great with all the names. He doesn't have thistle, but he has the one that grows like the big, it looks like a giant dandelion. It's got a lot of those. And, yeah, so,
Is he keeping it mowed?
oh, he keeps it mowed.
Okay, so
they're big?
how is
So,
it, yeah, that's
How
what
is
I'm
it an
asking.
issue? So
If it's
our,
mowed,
our,
how is that a
our
problem?
properties border, like it's not like there's a driveway in between. So I've landscaped my strip. He's let, you know, so I can keep going, and so it's a little onto his. But though I find some of those weeds in my backyard that I didn't used to have, that I've been seeing in his front yard, are now weeds in my backyard. I don't get all of his weeds, and he doesn't always mow them before they go to seed. And a lot of our noxious weeds have the adaptive strategy of learning, they lower their height to be able to go under the height you're cutting them to. Like dandelions will grow lower and lower if you're mowing.
You consider
them.
dandelions a noxious weed?
No, they're not on the list. They're on like the watch list. I'm not a fan of leaving the dandelions, but they're
Dandelions
not.
do a good job with pollinators that you're talking about.
I know. Well, we could get into a whole dandelion discussion. I like other plants that are native, that bloom at that same time and aren't as invasive.
Anybody else? Any other questions for Dana?
Rick, could I ask a couple of clarifications?
Yes, you jumped in, AJ.
So just a couple quick questions on my side. So the state of Colorado has an official noxious weed list. However, Department of Agriculture does not have a Colorado native plant list, correct? CSU and different cities have adopted lists, but the state itself does not have.
As far as I know, there is no official Colorado native plant list. The USDA has, on their website, if you look up a specific plant, it will show you the states that are its native range. But I think you'd have to go plant by plant. And when we say native plant, I really mean regionally native, you know, because there's a lot of different ecozones even within Colorado. So it's, you know, and the ecological landscapes aren't 100% native, you know, there are a lot of other good plants.
Is bindweed considered a native plant?
No.
It's been here forever. When did it come over that it's not a native plant?
I'd have to look that up to get back to you,
Because
but.
it's been here since I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, but that doesn't mean it wasn't, you know, the plants on that list are non-native.
Sure. And then just two more follow-up. You mentioned CRS 35, 5.5105. And just for clarifying, that's under the noxious weed. Noxious weeds are under the authority of the state and the county commissioner. That does not give local municipalities authority. Local municipality authority is under 107.
Okay.
And local authority under 107 gives local municipalities like Englewood authority to create advisory boards, which would basically, if the city would like, which I think council would have to create, basically it would be creating an HOA, mandating chairman be appointed, advisory board be appointed, and mandating basically landowners to create a land management plan to be submitted to that advisory board of how they're gonna manage their land to prevent noxious weeds and all that, correct?
Yeah, yes, it does give municipalities certain responsibilities that include establishing a local advisory board and adopting a noxious weed management plan.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
I have a question. From what you said, you responded to, how would that be different, local advisory board from CEAC?
So the local advisory board, they would basically mandate that landowners have to create a land management plan, how they would prevent noxious weeds, how they would basically treat their land. And then that advisory board would report back to the state. So it would basically take out the local authority, because that advisory board, because local authority doesn't do anything with noxious weeds. Noxious weeds authority is under the state control. The state control gives the control to the county commissioners for noxious weeds specifically under the 105 section. There is no subcategory for local control under noxious weeds. So if the council chose to do that, the local advisory board would mandate landowners. It's normally for larger, like farms, ranches, prairies, larger properties would have that authority to create a land management plan to keep those noxious weeds out, is the original idea of it. But they would report back to the state of how those properties would keep out those noxious weeds from those properties directly to the state noxious weed board.
So I agree, that is largely for farms and large properties. I just envision that if there's a list of the top weeds that are issues in Englewood, that are a nuisance, and there are different some are annuals, some, there's different ways you deal with them. You know, pulling thistle stimulates root growth, so it's better to cut it if you're gonna do something. So, you know, if, I don't know whose job it would be if it's not code enforcement's to provide information for residents in Englewood about what you look out for and how you eradicate it or manage it.
Another question? Do you have a question, Matt?
Well, I think my question, back to Officer Flores, is, with Arapahoe County then being responsible for the noxious weed abatement enforcement action, is there any exemptions for residential properties, or is that defined strictly as a land owner that you're aware of?
So in 105, it specifically says, if I'm correct, for unincorporated properties. However, under the bigger section, in 35.5, 100 or 102, it says that every person shall be responsible for preventing noxious weeds from going onto neighboring properties, which basically means that you as a landowner should do your best to keep it from spreading to your neighboring property. But because it is under CRS 35, it falls under the state, under the noxious weed program, which again falls back under the state noxious weed program. program. And that program, unfortunately, over the years has been less and less funded. And that's why a lot of that's been falling back to the counties. And so that's where the noxious weed program, unfortunately, I agree, we do need to do more with it. I know one of our officers went and had a whole day seminar on just spurge. And I know we have it all over the city. And that's where whose responsibility of how to remove it, what the proper techniques are. That could be an entire team of 20 officers across the city year round. We still wouldn't be able to cover the city. And so that's something that this board and council are ultimately going to decide if this is the route they want to look at. But yeah, that's unfortunately the noxious weed, the A, B, and C category in the watch list. Category A is what, 26 species are technically not in Colorado. Category B are 38 species that are in Colorado, but they're in such small pockets that they're like the high risk. If they're there, they have to be eradicated immediately. And that's under the purview of the state and the county. So the state will actually come out to a property if those are identified and remove them under basically a health order. And then the C, or which we find all over, which is your spurge, your mullein, your St. John's wort, your cheatgrass, your bindweed, which is all over that. Yeah, we're aware of it's here, you should remove it, but that's about as far as the state goes. And then there's the watch list species. And so that's about where the state's leaving it. They care about the A categories because that's what affects our agriculture. And some of the B categories, outside of that, if it doesn't affect Colorado agriculture, same thing like California does with their checkpoints. They look for certain types of species that come into California. If it's not affecting agriculture, they're not too concerned about it. Same thing with the noxious weeds.
Yeah, the C category is the recommended removal.
Yeah.
But I think the C category is a pain for all of us, for our landscapes.
And I think the depot lot, I think you had part of that a few years ago, is a great example of a great experiment where it was planted, and even the city had a struggle getting out there because you can't use pesticides or chemicals. And this basically code enforcement was going to put the city on notice because the city couldn't even keep that native grass area, planted area clean of weeds. And so staff had to go out and park staff had to clean that up. And so, that is a chat and talk for that native area as well. Like you said, what is the allowable limit to get overgrown with weeds? And we've had the chat of, is it a foot tall for grass and weeds? That's why there are no species or anything else of what is the requirement. Is the alley different than the front side of the yard? That's what your group is responsible for trying to determine, along with, I think it's outside, one from what was discussed, of no notices having given for the intentional plantings. And I think that's where that discretion piece that Matthew brought up is where a big part of that plays into effect.
Okay, any other questions for Dana? All right, Dana, thank you very, very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate the information. It's regrettable that we didn't see the pretty pictures, but
Yeah.
hopefully we'll
You'll
have a
get
chance to
them, I
enjoy
think.
them later.
Yes.
Okay?
Like to see.
And
Okay.
the ugly pictures.
We have, as the next item on our agenda, then to address and discuss any changes we want to recommend or maintaining EMC 1561. Can I ask if everybody has a copy of that in front of them so we can just make sure we're all looking at the same wording? You don't. Okay. You've got one.
Brian.
You've got one.
You can share.
Can you guys share one? And
Yeah.
do you have one?
Half an hour.
The EMC, okay. I just want to make sure we're looking at the wording. Great. Okay. So we visited this a couple of years ago, at the request of council to decide whether it needed to be revised at the time. The revision, I think at the time, was to look at 6 inches versus 12 inches, as well as the definitional part of this. So I think that I'd like to just open the floor for discussion right now. We've heard people speaking on it, and we've certainly, it is not a simple issue. It is not something that's as black and white as I would sure love it to be, and I think that code enforcement would love it to be. So what we're trying to do is to advise both the council as well as code enforcement on what we believe should be the next course of action that's move forward on this. Jump in. Anybody want to start that discussion? Go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand. Just say, hey.
Yeah, right. I'm just looking, I like the word alignment that you used earlier, and as it relates to this document, definition of weed under section 15-1-2 definitions. I'm just wondering, I'll read it. Weeds, grass, brush, or other rank or noxious vegetation that has grown to maturity or is in excess of 6 inches in height. So I want us to think about that definition as it relates to chapter 6, cutting and removing of weeds and grass, section 15-6-1, and the definition that we have within that section. And I'm wondering if what we've heard today might possibly give us pause to reflect on the definition of weed and see if we need to bring some of that definition into, bring it over, or just revisit the definition.
I would also like to see the wording that Douglas County or the city of Castle Rock has done. Obviously, they have been able to clarify this. And I think that would be no sense in reinventing the wheel, but we should be able to look at that, and it might give us some ideas of how we could improve our wording.
And ask them how well it's working.
I have it right here if you'd like to see it.
Yes, please.
And I've highlighted it.
I agree with that. I think that we're not blazing new trails here. There are certainly other municipalities, particularly in the Colorado area, and because of the emphasis in Colorado toward natural and all of that, I'm sure other municipalities have dealt with this issue. So I would, one of the steps forward, I think, is gathering more information. Castle Rock's great, but I'm sure there are other municipalities that have weed and grass ordinances that engage with native grasses as well as noxious weeds. And I would be very interested to see what their definitions are, because if we're going to recommend a change, we're also going to have backup definitions for those that reference that, so that we make this very, very clear of what it would end up being. Anybody else?
Could we, I mean, I don't see the word plant anywhere in the definition. We've talked about plants today, but it's not in here. We've talked about grass. Today it's kind of lumped in with a weed, brush. So I think there's an opportunity to expand or clarify the definition of weed by including plants. Maybe even distinguishing between native plants and plants and or grass, native grass or brush or noxious vegetation.
A final wording, I think, Matthew, would, in order for that to be part of the definitional group here, the final wording for the ordinance would need to include those terms so that that's a reference point for those. So I think that that's definitely, it would be helpful. It would be more clarifying, I think, to have a number of those definitions in here. But I think that would require us to completely, suggest a rewrite on 15.6.1. And I mean, it always strikes me as odd. There are huge sections in it. We've been going through paragraph after paragraph. You get to 15.6.1, which is a big piece of what code does at seasonal times of the year, and it's 3 lines long.
Yeah.
You know, there just isn't a lot of explanation or delving into this. So I think I agree that what Dana says is that this was written at a time where the vision of what a yard was a different thing. You know, we were all coming from the east with our Kentucky bluegrass and wanted to keep out, you know, thistles. That was what it was.
I think we need to be careful of going too far with it, but I think it does need better definition than what it has. But I don't agree in any way, shape, or form with saying that grass going from 6 inches tall to 10 inches tall on grass is a good idea. Number one, it can be a fire hazard because that's a lot of grass and a lot of fuel going up to a house. I think there should be a change in definition on what is turf grass, what is native grass. But also we need to make sure that code enforcement has the ability to make decisions instead of blocking them in to where they have to do this or have to do that. So there needs to be some real consideration on this. But yeah, I think it does need to be looked at a little bit more. I like grass. I like turf grass. I like seeing my dogs roll around on it. I like rolling around on it when I can. But I also want to see it cared for, and there's a reasonable area, and we need to be very, very careful not to go too far with it or not enough. And we need to take code enforcement, what they do and what they need to do their job into consideration. Because you've got a lot of things in this city that need addressed, like abandoned houses and other things in the city that need to be addressed on code enforcement that are more concerned to me than whether somebody has bindweed in their yard or not.
Well, code enforcement's role is to look at bindweed in someone's front yard. It's not abandoned houses. So I do agree.
No, we do have a portion in that.
It's very minimal.
Well, it is part of what we've been discussing and what we've been dealing with in some of this.
I think
and trees and all of that.
I think the interesting information here, or what we heard tonight in both the presentation and public open comment, was not anyone saying you need to get rid of your grass. And so I do think it's important as we define, which I think we've all agreed that this needs further definition. But I haven't heard anyone say we need to rip up all lawns. I think what we've said is that is a growing group of people in the town or the city. There are people who want to see themselves reflected in code, just like they see themselves reflected in code in other parts. And so I think it's important to, again, not go too far, but go far enough that it provides some support to code enforcement to address it, but also to identify that there are multiple ways to maintain your lawn in the city of Englewood in 2025.
And that's fine. I still stand. How many, just off the top of your head, because I know you can't identify completely, but how many times would you say that someone you've given a warning or a citation to someone that they say that their portion that you're saying they need to cut or take care of has been a native ground covering type of situation, that they're doing native plants and that they don't feel that they're doing something wrong? Do you run into that? Because I think we've discussed this before.
I'd say this month with our seasonals, we're close to 800 notices that we've issued now, and I'd probably say less than 15 have called in for some intentional planting that we've issued a notice for.
Okay, so it's a very small portion.
Sorry.
Less than 15 that have called in for an intentional planting, like a garden or native area or something like that. That was an intentional planting that we've actually received a call for.
Do you follow up on those then and go out and talk to the resident to kind of engage them in that discussion, or is it at that point, do you just say, okay, we accept that? How does that, what's the next step on that?
No, we'll talk with them on the phone, we'll get the information from them, and then we'll send the officer back out. Most likely they're in the area. A lot of those who are very passionate about their areas that they have planted, they will call us the same day they receive the notice, so our officers are still in the area, and we'll follow up with it normally within 24 hours. So the officer's already in the area, they'll swing back by and go, yep, okay, we see the exact area we're talking about. Yes, that is the area we were questioning. Or no, wait a second, we were actually talking about, no, we see the area you are talking about, but we were actually talking about the area on the side of your garage between the two houses that has weeds in it, or the alley side that has weeds in it, or something like that. But no, we will go out and follow up with those.
And I know you're putting the notices on the door. Do they make notations specifically where they've identified the overgrowth? Or is it just the blanket notice?
If it's one small specific area, like if it's just the alley, or if it's just a small patch between like the sidewalk and street, like that small strip, or if it is just between like the garage and the sidewalk like on the side of the house. If it's a small area, they'll notate it. Or if it's just like the entire front yard, there's a box that they can check the front side of property or back side of property. That's more generalized.
I've always found code enforcement not to be picky. In my neighborhood, I've been walking my dog, and I'll see the houses that get the tickets on the door, and the yards are filled with noxious weeds, and yes, they have not mowed the entire summer, and it is pretty bad. I don't know hardly anybody who has a decent yard and got a ticket.
No.
I think they're fair.
And I think that could be taken one of two ways, right? One, why do you need it if it's not happening? Or the other side is code enforcement and the sort of general growing understanding of what an ecological yard is, or something that is native grasses versus noxious weeds, also implies that the code enforcement officers are using some, again, inherent understanding of the difference between what we're talking about in this code and what's not. So I think changing it does help support the officers in the field as well, without making it, again, go too far. But I do think if it continues to grow as a trend or as a adoption more citywide, it's just important to have it reflected in the code so that it's accurate for what's happening in the city.
Well, and sort of to get back on your point, there are sort of four ways we look at it. When we do issue a notice for a property that is in violation or that's possibly in violation. Option one is we issue a notice and there isn't a violation, that it is intentionally planted and that we did make a mistake, it was intentionally planted. We talked with that resident, and yes, okay, we do re-inspect. We know it's intentionally planted. Okay, we note that in our case. We close out the case as in compliance because it's intentionally planted. Option two is that that resident does come into voluntary compliance. That yes, it was a violation, they took care of it, we're done. It's come into compliance. That's our ultimate goal, is the voluntary compliance. Option three is for some of our properties that are vacant abandoned, that are either rental properties where we can't contact anyone, that are owner occupied properties where we can't contact anyone. Those properties we will send forward to abatement, to where they will get cut by our abatement company. And then we do have those properties that a lot of people say, well, you're not doing anything with, similar to what you said of, oh, well, we've seen them all summer. A lot of those properties, we've actually contacted the residents and we've issued summons to court at that point. Unlike snow notices that are our administrative side, that we issue into Violations Bureau, grass and weeds still go in front of the court. We don't control the court's process. And so a lot of the time, if we do issue a summons to court for grass and weed violations, it could be 2, 3, 4 months through the court's process for their rights to go either through a speedy trial, or if they want to push it off, to get an attorney to fight the ticket. That's their right through their process through the court trial. So that maybe in July, they've received their notice, we issue them a summons to court, and in August, September, October, they're not touching their yard. Well, we're not playing double jeopardy because we've already issued them a summons to court. So we have done our job at that point, and that's where we get the call, well, code's not doing anything. We've done this on grass and weeds, we've done it with inoperable vehicles, we've done it with trash, where we've issued the summons to court, but we have to go through the judicial process. And that's what people don't see on the backside, is we've done our part, we have to go through the process through the court, and then the court will give the final order of, hey, this needs to be cleaned up, or like the judge said when he was here, that he can order a judicial abatement, or he'll give them 30 days to get the property cleaned up, or he'll order through the court process. So there's sort of those 4 options that we can do. If we can contact someone, we'll send them through the court process, because we don't want to have to abate the property and just bill someone if they're there. That's not necessarily what the process is through code, and like the judge said, that's not the process that he prefers, and that's not how the code's laid out. But if they're not there, if we can't contact anyone, if it is a vacant property, if it's not an occupied property, then we have the abatement option. And once our posting's over, we can remedy those in 24 to 48 hours, and then keep abating those if needed. So those are sort of the 4 options that we have available to us.
I have 2 vacant properties that are not on the vacant property list for the city. They're a block north of our home. And there are weeds, native grasses, that are very high in certain parts of the lot. But the point that I think you have to consider is neglect and intentional planning. And what is stated here in the Douglas County provision makes that pretty clear. It says nothing it talks about weeds and removing them, very similar with a little more verbiage, clarification. But nothing in this section is meant to preclude the use of native grasses or plants in landscaping, reduced irrigation landscaping, or methods used in the Castle Rock landscape and irrigation criteria manual. So landscaping, if you are landscaping, it is an intentional act as opposed to neglect. Very different. So I think when we consider rewriting this, we have to consider that, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and what I'm maybe gleaning from some of what is coming out here is that we're not ready to take the next step on this, which is to, recommend a change of blank, blank, blank. I think that we've been presented with a lot of good information. I think that you're exactly right, Matthew. It's a definitional thing here. We've got to get the definitions down so that everything's clear, and then utilize those definitions, similarly what Castle Rock did, to write this in a way that is clear for code, as well as clear for any citizen who is doing anything with their lawn. And I think that we're going to need some more information. I would love to hear from other municipalities and what their wording is also. I'd love to see how they're wording it, what they're doing. Ideally, I'd love to speak with the code officers who have to address that differential definition. How difficult is it? Is it a problematic thing for them to do? Or is it something which, it took us a little learning curve to understand it, but we know how to go out and manage it. But I think there's so many pieces to this that we want to do it right.
Would that be something for a subcommittee?
I was leaning toward that, Linda. I think that it would be helpful if a couple of us took the sort of the R on this and did some data gathering and comes back to the group with a variety of options, or a variety of things. Is there anybody who might be interested? We can, I think, have up to 4 on a subcommittee, but I don't know that we all need to be involved with it. Matthew, would you like to be a part of that?
I'd like to.
Linda, would you like to be a part of that? Anybody else? Okay.
If we have more than 2 on a subcommittee, it has
It
to
has
all
to be
be
publicly,
scheduled with me and we have to.
That's where I was like hoping we'd hold it at 2, so it doesn't mean more work for you. Okay, so if you guys would get together and, I think, have you heard enough? Is there any other questions you'd like clarification from the? Okay. All right, from there then, I think we'll move this to a subcommittee. What's your timeline? Do you think you could have stuff back to us in a month, or do you want to?
Sure, yeah, I think.
Okay, all right, well, let's
Yeah,
put
I
it,
think we're talking about no more than 6 or 7 definitions of words to consider, maybe
Yeah.
10.
And
And then get 4 or 5 different.
if you have the
Ordinances.
bandwidth to reach out to code enforcement departments, I would really be interested in hearing how they do it.
Yeah.
So just do
That's a
some
big
research
problem.
online and get that. I mean, I think these days there are tools out there
You
to
may have some contacts
pull out
also.
lots of things from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think we do need to, as a committee, does somebody want to make a nomination, what's the word I'm thinking? Motion.
Motion.
A motion to establish a subcommittee specifically to look at the grass and weeds ordinance and bring information back to the group.
I motion.
Okay, I second
second,
that motion. Okay, all in favor of establishing a subcommittee, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor? Okay, motion passes, so we have a subcommittee. Thank you.
And you may also want to look at Title 16, our planning and zoning code, because there's a lot of already definitions for landscaping design and requirements in there for new builds. That was already done with the next project.
Okay, can you, I hate to put it on you, AJ, but can you ferret through 16 and see specifically what pieces we might want to have available?
Yeah, there's a whole section in there just for landscape design in
Okay.
Title 16. And that's only good for new builds, but that may be able to pull stuff from that.
Good, okay.
Looking for consistency and alignment, so. it's
Well,
there.
once you, yeah, because Vicky's not here, but we need to be consistent, you know, in terms of how it reads across the code, so that's a good point. All right, very good. Okay. Any other discussion on this before we move on? Thanks for a great discussion. Again, thank you very much.
You all very
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
All right, new business. We need a chair and a vice chair. Officially, I am the chair at this point because of the vacancy created by Rob stepping away from the committee, so I have been an acting chair at this point. It is the time of the year when we nominate anyway, so I would entertain nominations for a chair.
For a chair,
We need to nominate a chair first.
Are you eligible for that?
I nominate,
Okay.
I nominate Rick for the chair.
Yes, I second it.
Yeah, to be specific.
Rick Rick Emmerich.
Okay.
I second.
Ricky.
Let it be noted you nominated Rick Emmelheinz.
Yes,
So is there a second?
I second.
Oh, seconded, okay. All right, those in favor, say aye.
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 Those not in favor? Okay, motion passes. I guess I get to be chair. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Vice chair. Is there anybody who would like to step up and self-nominate themselves for that?
I thought you were doing it.
You know what's happening more than I do.
I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to essentially to fill in when Rick isn't here to maintain the meetings. But
I nominate second Rick.
It's Rick and Rick show now. I'll second that nomination. Okay, all in favor of Rick Summerson being our vice chair? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion passes. You got a vice chair too. Okay, other new business topics for future meetings. We are scheduled for August 20th.
Committee member choice, you skipped over.
I'm sorry?
Committee member choice.
Oh, you're right, I jumped.
No worries.
Almost cut it off. Any choices, anything else anybody would like to bring up or put on a future agenda or anything along that line? I think we kind of have our hands full right now personally.
Yeah, I mean, my choice would have been what we chatted about earlier in terms of thinking about how to have a better presence and to identify ourselves in the community
I
and to
agree.
be part of it, so.
Okay.
Appreciate that conversation.
I would just add a couple thoughts, just based on some of the information that was presented today. When it comes to the actual notice that's posted, right, that's pretty straightforward. There may be an opportunity to consider in the future some additional signposting for resources. And we heard resources today about a place called the Resource Center, you know, maybe a one-pager on weeds and native grass. I know this might come with a cost in terms of printing, or maybe there's some kind of opportunity to drive a solution to the problem at the time of engagement from code enforcement to the property resident. Garden in a Box, I mean, I think there's great programming here that the city offers that can be start of the solution. So maybe that's a conversation for another day, but I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I think that once we kind of solidify what it is we're going to propose, I think that we can certainly look at that. I will let you know, Deanna and Tracy and I are on a subcommittee for the Sustainability Commission putting together what we're calling a lawn certification program, whereby lawns that elect to go native and are making that changeover can be valued and evaluated as to how they're doing, and then provided with a sign in the lawn which says, this is we have a new Coloradscaping lawn, and that those people are noted, and code enforcement has endorsed the idea because it's just one more way of differentiating those lawns for those seasonal people, and we're still moving forward on that. So along the line of what you're talking about.
I like
I
it.
do have to, oh, sorry, I see. I saw that you were gonna speak.
Oh, on the trees, nuisance trees in the alleys, does that fall under the landscaping or into this committee, or?
I think at some point it probably does fall under this committee. What part of the code is covered by nuisance trees?
So trees are under nuisance under Title 15. That got moved by this committee, I think, 2 years ago, from Title 11 to Title 15.
Okay, so that is something that
So is it coming
we'll be
up?
looking at.
We already
It's already
covered
been
that.
cut, we've already been through it.
Yeah, it's under general nuisance at the beginning and then under the definitions for trees for dead or dying that create a public safety.
But what about just overgrowth of trees, like on an alley? Is that something code enforcement would deal with?
So for right-of-ways at Title 11, it's 1154, I believe, which we already covered, and that specifically covers right-of-way. So if it's an obstruction for the alleys, for sidewalks, for streets, and that's any type of vegetation. So that covers trees, hedges, bushes,
Anything?
anything
Okay,
of that.
okay.
Uh,
We'll talk to you about that.
Okay, let's see, there was one other thing. I just wanted to thank you very much for voting your confidence in me to be a chair. A couple of things, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. You've noticed that I send out a personal sort of thing ahead of the meeting, and that partly is so that you guys come prepared because you know what we're going to be addressing. The other thing is that I would certainly love every time that we start this meeting on time and we end it within our 2-hour window, which is right now. So in order to do that, if you can be ready to go at 6 o'clock here in seat, have any notes printed out that you have that you're ready to discuss the topics. I'll try to highlight which ones those are. And again, if you for any reason think you're not going to make that meeting, please notify me. I would put my email, and if you need, let me give you my email, okay? And you got it recently, but it's just Rick dot my last name, okay? And then my last name is spelled EMMELHAINZ @gmail.com. Let me know as soon as you know that you're not going to make a meeting, because I really don't want to inconvenience people if we don't have a quorum. Okay? And then please let AJ know too, because AJ kind of keeps track of it. You've got his email address also. So that's my biggies, is I want to run a meeting that's efficient, we get a lot done, and we get the work of the council has asked us to do completed. Okay? Anything else for tonight? Anybody else? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice to see you too, and I'm really excited.
You were so well organized. Perfect.
Everybody's got